Recently, I realized that I might have two jobs. The first job pay me, the second job begin when the first one ends. I close my laptop and dashboard. Then I would check whether I exercise enough, review my language learning progress, research the perfect vacation. If I am especially tired, I'll watch a video about optimizing my sleep. At that point, I have not relaxed. I feel like I have simply transferred department. So I clock out employment and begin my second shift, which is managing myself. And apparently this manager doesn't have to follow labor law, has no weekends, and have a very aggressive performance review system. Take vacation, for example. The strange thing is that nobody ordered us to optimize the vacation, but we still schedule it, photograph it, compare it, learn a lesson from it, post it on Instagram to prove that you did it, and then wonder whether we're enjoying it correctly. Sounds exactly like work, which is fun but doesn't feel relaxing. So what is the nature of rest? Let's talk about it. This question sounds simple. What counts as work? Is caring someone work? Is learning work? Is healing your inner child considered work? And what is true rest? Is true rest doing nothing? Do we work in order to rest? Or rest so that we can return to work? But I think all of these questions are hiding one stranger question. Who get to decide whether an hour of your life was valuable? The labor market would say an hour was valuable if someone paid for it. And the self-improvement industry would say that it was valuable if it upgraded your body, or knowledge, or a habit, or a resume, or future income. And the wellness industry sometimes said it was valuable if it successfully repaired you for Monday. Sounds very relaxing to know that relaxation now have a deliverable, which I prefer and enjoy. It just have a little problem, it just doesn't feel like resting. I did what I normally do when one small personal problem becomes philosophical. I started Googling. Here's some context I found. So here are some historical context about rest. There are many ways to think about rest. The first one I found quite interesting is from Aristotle. According to the updated webpage, Ethic, Book X, published by MIT, Internet Classic Archive, using W.D. Rowe's translation. Aristotle argued that happiness depends on leisure because, quote, we are busy that we may have leisure and make war that we may live in peace. The passage does not describe leisure as passive recovery. It presents contemplation as an activity valued for its own sake, while political and military action remain busy activity directed toward future ends. According to the updated webpage Public Book 8, also published by the MIT Internet Classic Archive, this time using Benjamin Jowett's translation, Aristotle says leisure is better than occupation and its end. He associates its proper use with intellectual activity and music pursuit for enjoyment rather than necessity or profit. So Aristotle's leisure is not simply lying horizontally while an algorithm plays increasingly alarming videos. It is freedom for activity that does not need to justify themselves by producing something else. Also, let me remind everyone that while his argument is interesting, we shouldn't romanticize ancient Greek democracy. Because if you remember high school history, this democracy comes with a cost. We should ask a darker question. Who performed the necessary work while certain Greek men had time for politics, music, and philosophy? According to the webpage The Economic of Ancient Greece entry published by the Economic History Association, one estimate of ASEAN in 431 BCE count approximately 120,000 enslaved people among a population of 305,000 people. Enslaved labor in household agriculture workshop and might help free some male citizens to participate in politics and intellectual life. According to Ancient Politic Philosophy entry by Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy on 22 March 2023, Aristotle even attempt to justify supposedly natural slavery. So the celebrated leisure of ancient Athens had a dark material foundation. Some people could contemplate the good life partly because others were forced to maintain it. Apparently, one way to create a leisure class is to ensure somebody else never get leisure. That, however, does not make Aristotle's hierarchy between work and leisure intellectually useless, but it changed how we receive it. Necessary activity were supposed to serve a larger life, while the social order ensured that only some people were permitted to live that larger life. Okay, so ancient Greek elite exploit labor so they can focus on more important things like leisure. That's dark, but makes sense. But if you were one of those spoiled people who born in middle-class family in developed countries like me, who have externalized more intense labor to other parts of the globe that you don't see, why are you still feel like you are working at an old time? I think Calvinists can help explain that. So another way to understand the nature of work comes from Calvinism. Aristotle treated necessary work as a mean toward leisure. In Max Weber's account, certain Protestant traditions nearly reverse the hierarchy. Disciplined labor becomes a religious vocation through which a person demonstrates the seriousness of an entire life. According to the entry Max Weber by the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, the 21st September 2020, the Calvinist doctrine of predestination intensifies anxiety about salvation. Predestination says that if you are going to hell or heaven, you already decided by God. So if God had already decided who would be saved, no amount of labor would purchase a ticket to heaven. Yet, because believers could not know whether they were among the elect, methodical conduct, self-control, and success in one's calling would be interpreted as reassuring sign of grace. So it was not exactly work hard and God must save you. It was psychologically stranger. God had already decided. You cannot check the decision, but perhaps your productivity proves that you don't have to burn in hell forever. According to Grammar Doc's article, the Calvinists have a guilt complex, published by Cambridge University Press, 21 March 2016. Weber associated later Calvinism with methodical self-examination, constant vigilance, and concern about what one's conduct may reveal. Over time, the religious fear could fade while the moral judgment remained. A person answering email at 10:43 p.m. looked committed. A person staring peacefully out a window on Wednesday afternoon looked like civilization may collapse because of him, and obviously this person will burn in hell. Basically, Weber documented how work became more than something we do. It became evidence that we are safe by grace and don't have to burn in hell for eternity. The work was moralized as a cosmic duty, not just the means to the end. But even you are not religious, you still know that there are some works that are not the means to the end, right? So let's let one of the most famous atheists explain what's going on. Of course, I'm talking about Karl Marx. According to the entry Karl Marx by the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, Marx's 1844 account identifies several dimensions of alienated labor. Worker can be separated from product they neither own or control, compelled to perform deliberating activity, encouraged to treat other people as instruments, and prevent from exercising their capacity for free and creative work. The same webpage emphasized that Marx did not regard all work as inherently alienating. He thought productive activity could also be creative, fulfilling, and connect to human self-realization. The difference is not simply effort versus rest. It's whether the effort still feels meaningfully mine. So Marx gives us an important distinction. Work can be alienated, controlled by someone else and disconnected from our human capacity, or it can be creative, meaningful, and genuinely ours. But the distinction does not completely explain my problem. What happens when an activity really is mine? I genuinely enjoying it and still leave me feeling like an exhausted employee. Language learning can be fulfilling, exercise can be fulfilling, travel, writing, and making videos can be fulfilling. But once every fulfilling activity must be tracked, improved, displayed, and converted into personal development, it began to resemble the alienated activity it was supposed to replace. The problem is no longer simply that somebody else controls my work. It is that I have learned to manage everything I love as work. That's where Byung Chul Han comes in. To the Quarto Institute webpage, The Burnout Society, Byung Chul Han, 2015. Han argued that contemporary society has shifted from disciplinary society toward achievement society. The disciplinary subject received prohibition and command. You must, you should, you may not. The achievement subject instead received project, initiative, motivation, and apparently liberating promise. The language changed from you must to you can, while the you can part is not optional. You can build a personal brand, you can learn another language, you can improve your body, you can monetize your hobby, you can become the best version of yourself. Does those things sound optional to you? Certainly not sounds like optional to me. Can sounds much friendlier than must. Until you can do anything, quietly become you should be improving everything. According to the same Court Lord Institute excerpt, Han argued that this change does not eliminate the drive to maximize production. It makes the drive more efficient. The achievement subject becomes an entrepreneur of self, continually redesigning and attempting to outperform the person they were yesterday. So here's my understanding of Han's argument. The so-called achievement culture blurs Marx's distinction between fulfilling and alienated activity. A hobby may still freely chosen, but if I must improve at it, document it, and extract measurable value from it, I'm no longer sure whether I am playing or performing. Fulfillment itself becomes another productivity target. Eating a meal need to track macros, walking need to track step, reading a book need to write down notes, a vacation need an itinerary, measurable highlight, and apparently perfect Instagram photo and reels. Han called the resulting condition auto-exploitation. The achievement subject becomes both exploiter and exploit, experiencing the pressure of maximizing performance as freedom because the command appears to come from within. That does not mean external bosses, inequality, or economic coercion have disappeared. Han is offering a philosophical diagnosis, not proving that traditional exploitation has ended. The point is that control becomes unusually powerful when the person enforces it and the person suffering from it are the same person, and when even resistance can be repackaged as another self-improvement project. So I think I got the answer. So here's the philosophical rundown. Aristotle treated leisure as the purpose of necessary activity, but that leisure was partly sustained by the exploitation of people who denied it. The Calvinist tradition described by Weber moralized disciplined work, and Marx distinguished alienated labor from activity that could be free, creative, and fulfilling. And Han helped explain why the distinction now becomes difficult to see. Achievement culture can take activity that we freely choose, including the ones that we love, and reorganize them around endless optimization. Some hours should therefore remain eligible, not wasted, not optimized, not redeemed, simply lived. Until next time, please allow at least 1 hour of your life fill its performance review and just relax. Also, I have to go. I have to start a project called Optimizing Resting by de-optimizing every single part of my life. I have to get to work. Bye.